is the site that we are here to talk about. It is actually multiple properties at 5052 Coxe Avenue. It is a cluster and they are all county-owned properties. Assessment of how well each of these plans meets the guiding public interests for this property. And which one of these do you think does it better? So if you had to pick, which one would you pick in the spring of last year? And at that time, we asked everybody, really, what are the values that you want to guide development on the site? What do you want to see happen here? And we took all of that feedback that we got and we summarized it into, I guess you'd say, like a set of rules or a framework for how we figure out what we can build here, which is our driving force to be here today, is that redevelopment of these sites should maximize the number of new apartments that are affordable to low and moderate income households in a mixed income setting. Redevelopment should include active ground floor uses that serve residents and commuters and increase pedestrian traffic, maintain direct and safe access from Coxe to Church Street, balance maximum density and that pedestrian scale design to extend from, so Patton Avenue being up here and the South Slope area down here. So thinking about extending that kind of pedestrian-friendly design all the way down Coxe Avenue. And then one of the big things that we bring to the table is the goal is to attract as much private investment as possible to really maximize the impact of limited local government resources to do this work. We're going to look at two options, okay? First option is using just one chunk of the county land at 52 Coxe Avenue. We would get about 130 affordable units and about 2,200 square feet of non-amenity, sort of potentially commercial space. Option two would require closing a portion of a street and would then be able to use two chunks of county property and do a bigger project with 200 units and nearly 6,000 square feet of non-amenity, likely, potentially, maybe commercial space. The second thing that is really kind of dictating a lot of what we can do here is that the city of Asheville has requirements that along Coxe Avenue, 70% of the street level exterior has openings. So you have to have windows, you have to have doors, it has to be basically see-through, which makes it a little bit hard to do apartments, right? The key thing is that our funding source, that low-income housing tax credit, you might be wondering, why do you have to close Sawyer Street to do 200 units? Like, why can't you just build here, 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 and just get everything you can get? It's because the funding source requires that all the parking actually be on site. So you can't have residents having to cross the street to get to their parking. And at the end of the day, everything's going to go through a zoning process, and we'll have to go through it. And keep in mind that the eventual design has to meet the City of Asheville's rules, and it has to meet the funding sources requirements as well. Now, I said, like, I'm being kind of weird about the ground floor space and the likely, and it's because it's really hard with the LIHTC, with the funding source, to include a non-residential, non-amenity space in that development. It either has to be occupied by a community service facility, right? So that's primarily serves residents serving households earning less than 60% of the area median income or below. Or if it's income producing and it's not primarily, right? If they can't say most of our customers are low income, then it has to be owned by somebody other than the developer. So it's more of a, you're cutting out that piece of ownership in that project. Option one. In total, we're looking at 7 stories. The parking is hidden behind the building. In this development, so we've got in the yellow here on the ground floor, that's 2,200 square feet roughly, and about 130 rental units that run down Sawyer Street. A potential mix that we used to estimate the funding gap is about 20% at that deep affordability, 30% AMI and below, about 20% at that 80% of the area median income, and then the rest at that 50 to 60% AMI. This project, estimate for today based on current cost conditions, things happen. We estimate it's about a $38.5 million project total, right? Public-private investment with the potential funding gap of which the county is committed to helping make happen is about $4.2 million. I want to give you the view from the top. So if you're looking at this, this is just the ground floor and what's on the ground floor. You've got Coxe Avenue, Sawyer Street, you have some kind of community areas, and you have some non-necessarily community areas, and you will have some apartments running down Sawyer Street. On the ground floor level, you see this outdoor amenity, so there will be kind of a required playground potentially here, maybe kind of an outdoor area that residents can use, with an entrance to the first floor of the parking off of Sawyer Street. This is looking at the second level, right, to get a sense of how this parking works. This is going to be open to the below, and you still have that commercial space here, and then you have a second level of parking with a Ravenscroft entry here as well. So I show you this to say there's going to be traffic here coming into the deck, and there will be traffic along Sawyer coming into the deck. This is closing Sawyer Street, just a portion of it. What you see here is along Coxe Avenue, we have nearly 6,000 square feet, right, of potential commercial space. And this gives us about 200 rental units on these county properties. Same mix, so about 20% of the units that are deeply affordable, 20% that are at that moderate income, and the rest at that low income level. What we're looking at here is a $59 million project with a funding gap of about $10 million. This is that ground floor from the top, what we're looking at. This is a pedestrian area that would allow people to still walk from Coxe Avenue down to Ravenscroft, so that you still have that potential to keep walking the way you used to walk if this is your neighborhood, allowing us to link these two properties so that we can use tax credits across both. This is the second floor and the third to seventh floor view, right? Which is apartments. So you'd have apartments over here and really just covering all of this area. Now this is just an idea or a potential concept of what the outdoor areas could look like. I say could because developer might come and think of it differently. But the idea would be making this as pedestrian friendly as possible so people want to walk down this way. Allowing for a playground here, kind of on the quieter end of the street, and potentially some play area and green area on this portion here. Now, part of the reason that we looked at just closing a portion and not all of it is because what I haven't talked about, and I can't believe I missed this, the Asheville Rapid Transit Station is right here at the end of Aston Street, right? Right now you do have buses and cars that come down Sawyer, and so what we would hope is that there could be an opportunity to figure out how to convert the service alley to a road that would allow cars to still drive up and down Aston, and to allow that access that we need to the parking deck. That's to say, this is a summary. I highlighted, this is the low end. So when you're thinking about this level of public investment, I want you to keep in mind the 9% and 4% tax credits are two different programs, and what we imagine here is actually combining them together to reduce the overall gap. The 9, all you have to know, is very competitive. You get more money, but you also have to compete more. If the project is not able to get them, or the timeline is too long, the funding gap will be closer to 10 million on this project and 16 million on the second project. It sounds like a lot, but the very important context, that is what it costs to typically do a 4% project. Our goal is to try to bring that down, but this is what all of the affordable projects are basically requiring today, around that point.